Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, Season 3. Let's rewatch Knowing What We Know Now and see what comes out of my face.
And I think you and I both know that that is not me. As much as I have wanted it to be me and have tried to manipulate myself to be that person for you, the last 2 months have not been like picture perfect.
All right, so here it is. I was watching everything building up to this, and it was interesting because, when I watched it originally, I figured they were both a no. It would make sense that they would be. And then when we saw the altar scene and we heard what she said and his reaction, I kind of rewrote history in terms of what she was saying building up to the altar. And she was, I don't know, but the things that she said or the things they included in the show were very carefully worded. She didn't say anything that was a lie. I kept waiting for some indication. There were little bits and pieces here, but not that she's a liar, but that there would be some kind of ruse, some kind of deception at play. Like she would say something like, I could see myself spending the rest of my life with him. I love him so much, or something, because that's usually what people are saying, even though they're going to say no at the altar. But what she kept saying was, I fell in love with him because da-da-da-da-da. Meaning that I fell in love with him in the pods because he was this way to me. I experienced this about him. I loved him because of this. I fell in love with him because of this. I said yes when he proposed to me because I loved him so much. He's such a great person, or he was such a great person, or something. And never did she say anything about loving him after meeting him in person. So she never said anything that was openly deceptive. Well, what's the deception I was looking for? I was looking for a deception along the lines of, earlier in the day, she's like basically saying that he's a good person, but then on the altar, she clearly indicates that she doesn't believe he is a good person. But again, she didn't really say that. She was mainly referring to, whether she was explicit about it or not, you could see in her mind that she's referring to him in the pods. Anyway, so here we are at this moment where she's going to go after him. And remember that according to him, not according to her, but according to him, which I think I tend to believe, 2 days prior, he told her that he was a no and that they talked it over and they had agreed to date after the altar. So he thinks, and the other thing I heard in the interviews post-season was he said he didn't know who was going to go first. He was like, well, if I'm going to go first, this is what I'm going to say. And then if she's going to go first, then I guess she's going to say no. And then I will just say, okay. And so he doesn't know that. Now, there's a possibility that she did know she was going to go first because they had a talk with her and he was left out of that talk. Who knows? But so keep in mind that from his perspective, they are going to be friendly and maybe friends afterwards, and then this happens.
You have disrespected me. You have insulted me. You have critiqued me. And for what it is worth, you have single-handedly shattered my self-confidence.
I mean, whew. She used the word manipulate earlier. She says that she had to manipulate herself into becoming who he wanted her to be. You've shattered my self-confidence. You've single-handedly shattered my self-confidence. Now, that's, again, not a deception. She's telling that that's how it is for her. He did really affect her self-esteem in a profound way. Is that his fault, though? You could argue that some of it was, some of it maybe not. Some of it was inadvertent and would cause a lot of people in her positions to have a hit to their self-esteem. Some of it was her reading into it. Some of it was her nitpicking him. I mean, because he could easily say a similar thing about his self-esteem and the way that she treated him, especially the way that she's treating him right now. But a lot hinges on what really happened behind the scenes. And I think the consensus among people who watch the show and the interviews and maybe know a little bit more behind the scenes, watching TikToks and this kind of thing, is that she misinterpreted things. She blew things out of proportion, and he was naive and said some things that he didn't know would hurt her feelings, but a lot of people would know that they shouldn't say those kinds of things. But at the very least, I think the tagline is, Zanab overreacted and or created a narrative because she thought it would play well to audiences. I don't know if that's true. None of us will ever know that because we'd have to be inside of her head.
You have disrespected me. You have insulted me. You have critiqued me. And for what it is worth, you have single-handedly shattered my self-confidence. And I hate that you have had that kind of effect on me.
I mean, just think about all the other options available to her. She could have told him this off, away from the altar, away from the cameras. She could have said at least something along these lines behind the scenes. She claims that she did. He claims that she didn't. That's impossible for us to know. I imagine that it's at least more in the direction of his account than it is hers, but I don't know. Could be completely accurate. Her account could be completely accurate, but yeah, I mean, there's just so many other ways to do this. She could just be like, no, I don't. And frankly, the past number of weeks have been pretty rough on me, Cole. But, I wish you well, and I'm sorry. And I'm pretty sure you were going to say no too. But there you go. I mean, you could still be angry. You could still be upset. You could still be even slightly hostile. But this litany of accusations that when you wage them against someone, particularly a man in a heterosexual relationship, but, I'm not going to claim that men have it worse than women because that is not empirically true. But in this situation, I think you could argue maybe sometimes that when you accuse a man of being in a heterosexual relationship of being verbally and emotionally abusive, fat shaming, body shaming, narcissistic, this kind of thing, arrogant, harmful, hurtful, inconsiderate, it's really hard to disprove that if you're in Cole's shoes, right? Now, the benefit that Cole had was there's tons of evidence, there's tons of footage. But imagine if that wasn't the case. She just says these things and it's out, maybe people start tweeting it or whatever, the rumors get around, and it could destroy his life. I've seen people get destroyed emotionally, socially, psychologically over lesser things than this, meaning that they weren't on a reality TV show. So this, and he's talked about that, how after being on the show, he hasn't been dating, according to him, and he is pretty wary about dating because he doesn't know if he can trust people. He's in therapy.
The messed up thing is that I know I love you. I know I love you, but everything in me and the logical part of my brain tells me that love shouldn't feel this way. Love shouldn't hurt like this.
Now, there's a possibility that her word choice is not really what she was hoping to say, that she's not meaning to say that he's abusive but that's the language she's using. You single-handedly shattered my self-esteem. You disrespected me, you insulted me, you harmed me. I'm inserting words in there, but it's possible that she's like, you didn't mean to, but my self-esteem was affected by this relationship, so I don't think I want to be with you anymore. Maybe she meant it in a softer way, but it certainly doesn't sound that way, right?
I can't marry you, and I don't. You are a good man, and I know that. I know that about you.
Yeah, and then she says stuff like that, and you're thinking, what? Like, you're a good man, but you shattered my self-esteem single-handedly, and you're an abusive. I mean, she was using that language, right? You purposely tore me down, or you have no heart, you have no empathy, but I know you're a good person and I love you, huh? Like, now she's entitled to her feelings around this. No one can tell her that she's wrong. She can have a mixture of those feelings, but it doesn't sound coherent. It sounds more like she's trying to have her cake and eat it too, maybe, where she doesn't want to come across as a bad person, as someone who's just on the attack, someone who's bitter, or someone who is mean. She wants to say something nice, but she also wants to say what she said. So she's trying to somehow mitigate it or lessen the overall impact by saying, I know you're a good person and I love you. And then later in the reunion, she says that if she could do it all over again, she would. You're just thinking, what? So either none of that is true, or one of them is true, or you have a very strange relationship with people, because why in the world would you want to redo that again? And a lot of people commented, and I think I said something like that. Anyone who's been through an abusive relationship will not say, I wish I could do that again. If I could go back in time, I would do it all over again. No one having gone through an abusive relationship, even slightly abusive, would say, yeah, I would do that all over again. No. Like, abuse tears you down. It's awful. You would never want to repeat that. Now, might someone be confused and deluded and not connected with their feelings such that they might answer, yes, I would like to do it over again. But so I'll say that anyone in connection with what actually happened, who can actually identify the abuse as she's claiming that she can, would never say in the same paragraph, but I would do it all over again. No one would say that. So something's fishy there. Now, I'm saying no one would say that not as if it's a scientific fact. I'm just saying, the colloquial you, the generalization you. So could someone? Yeah, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. There'd be a lot of explanation that I'd have to hear in order for me to understand why someone would think that way.
And I wish I could have had more of that. I really do.
And then people clap. It looks like one person was going to do a standing ovation in that moment. She later would cringe and say, oh, my friends clapped. Great. So I think she has that going for her. And I speculated that she had been telling her friends behind the scenes about all the awful things that she, according to her narrative, that he had done. And so, yeah, I mean, if you believe her narrative, then sure, clap.
That was rough.
As well.
You deserve that.
Yeah. I really didn't want to be ugly, but he also had to be freaking told some things. I hope he doesn't do this to another woman, because it's not fair.
Yeah, she is consistent with her statements there. She's saying, I didn't want to have to be mean. Or what'd she say? I can't remember the word she used, but I don't want to have to be over the top, but he needs to be told some frickin' things. It's this anger, and because the way that she sees it, he did do those things, and he might have, but there's doubt as to whether or not he actually did.
That.
Yeah. I really didn't want to be ugly, but he also had to be freaking told some things. I hope he doesn't do this to another woman, because it's not fair.
Yeah, she didn't even say mean, she said ugly. So I think that is a softer word, meaning that, look, sometimes you got to get ugly, because that's just what the situation calls for.
I promise you, I never tried to hurt you.
I know. You're okay. You're okay.
I never tried to hurt you.
You're okay. All right?
Yeah, to be accused of this sort of thing, you might think, well, what's the big deal? Someone accuses you, your friends and family support you. These things get under your skin. These things get under your skin. One. Two, we are not independent creatures. More than we know it, especially us Americans, we define ourselves by the way other people see us. I define myself by the way you see me. I don't even know you necessarily in person, right? But the way you comment about me, whether or not you even watch these videos, no pressure, by the way, but I define myself partially through the way that you see me. If no one watched these videos, if comments were very different, if no one cared, or if everyone thought I was stupid or irrelevant or something, then fine. I mean, that them's the breaks, but that would really change the way I see myself. I would not want to make more videos, for example. The only reason why I make these is because people watch them and comment in a way that give me purpose and help to define myself in a way that makes me feel like I'm doing something that's worth it, right? And so this idea that somehow we can defend ourselves from other people's opinions. From Cole's perspective, he has her mom. Actually, I forgot about that. So I don't think the first time I watched that, I think I forgot that was Zanab's stepmom. So I'll rewind that and rewatch it. I think I thought that might have been his mom or his relative. Of course, his family, they aren't there. His parents aren't there, of course. But for Cole, you could even say, well, Zanab's on my side. My friends and family are on my side. Everyone who knows me knows that I wouldn't have done something like that. But I think his first wife actually might have similar complaints. I don't know that. But even if it's just one person on the planet who knows enough about you to be able to make a decision about you along those lines, who believes that about you, it's hard not to let that get under your skin. I mean, there's the getting under your skin of, is that really true about me? And that's one aspect to it. But another thing is, people don't like to be hated by other human beings. Again, contrary to the way people like to think of themselves. None of us want to be hated. None of us want to be seen in a negative light like that. And so to be seen that way by someone who knows you very well, and to be so public about it, because it would be rational for Cole to wonder, well, I know my friends and family are supporting me, but do they really believe me? Because they weren't there. Maybe there's a part of them that thinks that Zanab is right. Maybe Zanab is right. And he even said that at the reunion. He started thinking, maybe I was a monster. Maybe I was a horrible person. And yeah, that kind of irresponsible accusation and public humiliation, I find to be, more and more prevalent in today's society, not because people are different today, but because people have the ability. Believe me, if we had social media in the 80s when I was a teenager, we would have all been trying to humiliate everybody. We just didn't have that capacity. We only had to do it by writing nasty notes on the bathroom wall or talking about someone behind their back or something. We did all those things. We just didn't have social media to amplify the harm towards someone else, right? So, yeah, it's pretty awful. Now, this isn't social media's fault, of course. This is just TV but people have wondered, and I've wondered as well, is if people incorporate social media into their breakup narrative, into their breakup behavior, which makes total sense given today's landscape. I wouldn't be surprised if you or someone you know, either someone that broke up with you or you yourself, in the process of breaking up, somewhere in there, you started to think, how am I going to communicate this to the broader world? What kind of opportunity do I have here? Because I can finally voice my voice. I might even use social media as a way of getting back at that person, as a way of outing that person, as a way of protecting myself, or whatever narrative you have for yourself. And maybe some of it is justified. I'm sure some of it is. If someone's stalking you, for example, or absolutely abusing you, then maybe that the perpetrator deserves to be called out in that way, at least for your own safety. Sometimes it can help you to attain more safety if you out that person so that the perpetrator knows that everyone else knows, and that if anything bad happens to you, that the perpetrator will be implicated. So, some of that incorporation of public outing, public humiliation, if you will, public revealing is justified and moral and good. But I'm just going to take a guess and say that there are some people who are doing this who shouldn't be doing it, and that it wouldn't be considered ethical. But if you're an outsider, if you're one of Zanab's friends, how would you know the difference? How would you know the difference between a legitimate call out, a legitimate public humiliation, versus one that's not legitimate? You wouldn't know, and you'd be partial to your friend's narrative. So again, not only is this potentially completely unfair, but you have a whole group of people who just side with Zanab about this, right? And then Cole's probably also thinking, partially, holy crap, this is being filmed. This is going out to millions of people. Are millions of people going to hate me now? I'm doomed. People don't usually recover from these kinds of accusations, right? So, it's pretty awful. Now, again, as I often say, maybe he is a monster, and he deserves it, and he deserves even more than this. I can't know the answer to that question. I don't know.
Why has she never said that to my face? And she chose now because she knew it would hurt more in front of all of my friends and family.
I'm so sorry. Good luck.
I promise you I never try to hurt you.
I know you.
Yeah, I think I passively picked, or I was reeling from the whole. And people commented and said, remember when Zanab's mom said the things to Cole? I remember thinking, but seeing it again, this has a lot of power. I mean, for Zanab's mother, who clearly cares about Zanab, loves Zanab, and is a supportive person. And Zanab clearly cared. So Zanab and Zanab's stepmom, because Zanab's parents died, and so mom and Zanab mom walks Zanab to her green room, to her dressing room. Mom makes a point to come all the way back. It looked like a pretty long trek to talk to him and tell him this.
I'm so sorry. Good luck.
So up until this point, you could say, well, she's just being nice, diplomatic. I'm sorry, good luck. But then she says the following.
I promise you I'll never try to hurt you. I know. You're okay. You're okay.
Never try to hurt her.
You're okay.
I know. Now, who knows if she's just saying that? There's a possibility in her mind. She's like, well, honey, you're young, but you did hurt her, and you have a lot of growing to do or something like that. But there's another possibility that she knows from experience with Zanab that Zanab has issues. Because if Zanab has the issues that seem to be presented on the show, and of course we have no idea, it's just a little snippet of someone's behavior, but if she does, then in all likelihood Zanab has a personality issue that is present in many of her relationships, not just her relationship with Cole, maybe even her relationship with her mom. So it's possible that her mom has been on the receiving end of that distortion, of that very self-assured victimization, Not as if Zanab makes a choice to be, because people always say you're playing the victim. Almost all the time when someone is accused of playing the victim, they are distorting what is happening outside of them because of their relational traumas in the past. And so they're seeing a different world where they are a victim. It's not that, and they don't have a choice in the matter. They can't just push their lens aside. They have a lens that they see that situation through. So yeah, they might not actually be a victim, but they're not choosing to see it. Now, some people will play the victim, but it's pretty rare. A stark example, an obvious example of this is when you have a kid who is acting as if they're a victim. Like you have, brother and sister, and brother is pestering sister, pestering, and the kids don't know that you have an eye on them, like you know what's happening and you're seeing what's happening. And then sister, is saying, hey, knock it off, brother. And then sister says, hey, knock it off, and pushes brother back. Not hard, but just like, stop pushing me, stop pestering me, stop hitting me, stop pulling my hair. And then brother falls to the ground and says, Mom, and he starts crying, and brother comes in, Mom, sister pushed me down. Well, that's playing the victim, right? In all likelihood, that kid, that boy, does not actually believe he was a victim. He isn't distorting reality. He's just trying to play something up because he wants attention or something, or he's trying to get rid of sister somehow. But so some people do. But anyway, so the mom, at the very least, the fact that the mom is doing this right now should raise questions as to whether or not Zanab might have issues outside of Cole, given the way that because imagine if the mom even remotely believed Zanab's narrative here. She wouldn't. I can't imagine imagine if your child was abused by someone the way that Zanab claims that Cole abused her. Would you do this? Would you go to him? Now, maybe you are a super, enlightened individual who forgives everyone in an instant. You can certainly see how, and some people are like that. Some people have murders happen to family members and they will forgive the perpetrator. So maybe it's that, but it doesn't look like that.
I promise you I'll never try to hurt you. I know. You're okay. You're okay.
Never try to hurt her.
You're okay. All right?
Yeah, and kudos to Cole for crying and saying the things that he's saying. He has a pretty healthy way of communicating. So many other people that we watch on these shows, when they're in this position, will act tough, when on the inside they're falling apart, will get angry, will get dismissive, and he's not doing that. He's expressing the core feeling, which is hurt, pain, humiliation, needing of support. He's signaling to others that he needs others to help him through this right now. And it's just a very healthy response. Now, some would say that he's acting, that he is faking this whole thing. And I don't know, I can't tell. It doesn't look fake, but people can fake things. What do you think?
You had to stand up for yourself today.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for doing that.
Yes, it's interesting because I think I missed a lot of these. I think I was just in a whirlwind from the altar scene. So the mom, in contrast, is now telling Zanab, you needed to stand up for yourself, seemingly agreeing that what she did was okay and right. So I don't know. So I guess I'm kind of confused about the mom's approach as well. On one hand, seemingly believes that Cole deserved to get blasted like that, but also cares about him seemingly similar to what I think Cole would accuse Zanab of being, where it's like 1 minute you're on my side and 1 minute I'm the enemy.
Okay. So
Now, I want to be clear. I don't want to accuse the mom. We have almost no data for her. So, but it just occurred to me. But so I guess I'm a little, I'd love to know what the mom thinks, because obviously she would know Zanab very well and would have a lot to say about the situation. So I'd be curious about her honest opinion on the whole matter. All right. Well, that does it for that episode. Please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.